Busy. It's definitely gonna
I know, but it'll be
keep you
good.
guys busy.
All right, I have the recording going. I'm gonna start letting people in. Does that work for you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
I'm ready.
Great. And let me really quickly, I'm gonna put us for now in gallery view. All righty. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, I see some familiar faces. Hello, hello. How are you all doing?
This is so exciting. Welcome.
Hello. Fix my camera here.
As you're all coming into the waiting room or into the Zoom room, rather, if you wouldn't mind sharing where you're calling in from and your university or company or organization, so we can all get to know each other a little bit, that would be awesome.
Whoa, Christina, I like your background.
I know, I was gonna say that too. It's out of this world. She's out of this world.
I forgot that I was testing it out, so this is the reveal, I guess. I forgot about it. I was testing it yesterday.
That's some impact.
Well, then I guess that's what we're aiming for, right?
I like it.
Thank you.
And I like that you all have different backgrounds with the Spencer logo. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think we were inspired by Questpro, Tandeka, to be perfectly honest, right?
Yes.
That was like where this came from.
We got
It's
off our call and we're like,
mesmerizing.
those are gorgeous.
Yes.
Gotta get to your level.
Right. These colors are mesmerizing. They're hypnotizing. I see Brandon. I see Patrick. You guys are brave enough to turn your cameras on. How are you guys doing?
Great. Thank you. It's great to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Where are you dialing in from? Where are you calling in?
Yeah, I'm dialing in from Chicago, and I'm with a new initiative called the Rise Opportunity Foundation that's a part of the Pat and Shirley Ryan Foundation. So we're looking to do some work in the high school and college space for diversity recruiting and RMI.
Amazing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to see you. Thanks
Thank
for joining. Awesome. Hi, everyone. Great to see where you're all calling in from. We're just going to wait. Well, it's already 1:03. I think we can kick off. We have 35 folks with us. This is really exciting. Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Lieblein-Gerbala. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the programs manager at the Spencer Educational Foundation. We are so excited to kick off our 2021 Spencer Summer Webinar Series with Tandeka's session today, Supporting Your Future Career Within RMI. For those of you who may be less familiar with Spencer and our organization, I'll just give a really brief overview. So our mission is to fund the education of tomorrow's risk management and insurance leaders. And we do so through scholarships to students, internship grants to risk managers, as well as grants to universities and other organizations for experiential learning opportunities for students, as well as course development in risk management and insurance amidst other creative opportunities and initiatives towards education in the risk management and insurance space. I have a couple of quick housekeeping notes before we dive into today's session. The first is, again, if you wouldn't mind sharing where you're calling in from, we'd love to hear from you in the chat. Second thing is, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted to our website after the fact. So if you want to revisit any of the information that you heard today from Tandeka, or if you have friends or colleagues you'd like to share the session with, that will be available on our website after the fact. And last point of housekeeping notes, which Tandeka will also mention, we welcome your questions and comments throughout the session. So you can please feel free to write those in the chat as we go, or if you're brave enough to unmute yourself, please feel free to do so as well. And I'll be monitoring that throughout. For now, I want to pass the floor over to Megan Miller, our Executive Director at Spencer.
Hi, thanks, Rachel. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I love seeing the faces. So if you're in a video state and don't mind turning on your camera, it just makes it kind of a warmer and friendlier environment. So Let's see all those smiles out there. But yeah, I want to thank Rachel for putting this together. Spencer talked about doing a webinar series just to provide resources to our students and our alumni for a long time. And then Rachel was hired last year, and boom, last summer we had one. So, and it was a big success. A lot of people are interested in presenting. And so we're back again this year for the summer. We're going to continue on a monthly basis and through the fall. So we just encourage you to keep joining. And what Spencer is really looking to do, especially for young professionals, is just to provide whatever resources we can. You know, as Rachel mentioned, we provide a lot of funding in the form of scholarships and grants, but we'd like to have more connection points with our recipients as well, such as this. So that's why it's great to kind of see your faces. This can be really informal. I know everyone has kind of online fatigue at this point. So whatever you need to do to kind of keep it fresh and interesting for yourself, talk in the chat, put your video on, raise your hands. We really want to hear from everybody. And I just want to thank Tandeka for being our first to kick off our webinar series this year. We have a great relationship with Questpro and just really love seeing her smiling face and her energy. So, so with that, I'll toss it back to you, Rachel, to go ahead.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. I echo all that you just said, Tandeka. We're so excited to have you again. And I would love to give just a brief introduction before I pass the floor over to you. So Tandeka is currently the Director of College Recruiting at Questpro. She received her degree from Georgia State University in Risk Management and Insurance with a minor in Actuarial Science as well. So I'm sure she has a wealth of knowledge in terms of connecting with you all in your studies and trajectories. She, upon graduating, joined the team at Marsh USA, where she worked as an associate account executive within both the national brokerage and global risk management arenas. From there, she joined the national team at Gamma Iota Sigma as the Director of Chapter Engagement, before now moving on to the recruiting side of the RMI industry at Questpro. Tandeka, thank you so much. We're so excited to hear what you have to say today. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that lovely introduction. My goodness, I'm up here blushing. But it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I see a lot of familiar faces. So hi, everyone. If we have not connected before, I would love to get to know each and every one of you on a one-on-one basis. So I'm going to put all my contact details at the end of this presentation so that we can chat. Feel free to call me, text me, add me on LinkedIn. I'm absolutely accessible and available to all of you at any time. So yeah, thank you for being here today. I'm super duper excited to kick off the Spencer webinar series for summer of 2021. If you have any questions, by the way, please feel free to jump in. Please feel free to unmute yourselves. You know, as they said, if you're not quite comfortable doing that, I totally understand. Feel free to type your questions in the chat box, or you could raise your hand physically or use the functions within Zoom to raise your hand. But I would love to take your questions live. Just because I know how it goes. A lot of the times you have a question in your mind and you're going to hold on to the question, and that's all you're going to think about until the end of the session. So I don't want you to do that. If you have a question, I want us to go ahead and address it as we go through the presentation. So I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. My name is Tandeka Nomvete. I was born and raised in South Africa. Fun fact. I grew up in a very small town called Umtata in the Eastern Cape province. So yes, that's where the accent is coming from, South Africa. I work for a company called Questpro, which is a staffing and recruiting firm. And Questpro has several divisions. One of them is called the Q Grads division, which focuses on this population, which is current college students, as well as recent graduates. I'll tell you a little bit about how I got to where I am today. So it started off with me being in community college, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, right? So I was sort of going through the rounds of majors. I really liked the business classes, accounting, finance, economics. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be an accountant because that's all I was exposed to at that time, right? I didn't know about the risk management and insurance industry. And I had great math scores. So I was sitting in a math class, a Calc 2 class, and the student that was sitting next to me told me about this magical, wonderful thing called actuarial science. And I was like, whoa, what is that? You know, she was talking about transferring to Georgia State University and she was going to study actuarial science. And I was so confused. I was like, we're sitting in a math class and she's talking about science. I didn't get it. So I did a lot of research. And of course, if you do any research on actuarial science, it's always like #1 job in the world, 6-figure straight out of college, you know, all that good stuff. So I was like, yes, this is for me. So I transferred to Georgia State University, declared my major as actuarial science. And it was not for me, guys. It was not for me. I stuck it out for about a year, but I knew that I didn't want to go through the process. So if any of you are studying actuarial science, you know that there is an exam process that you have to go through to actually become an actuary. So in my final year, I spoke to the career counselor, the career advisor, and she suggested risk management and insurance because it wouldn't lose a lot of credits. There's a lot of career paths, job opportunities within that industry. So there I am in my senior year of college, and I was like, what am I going to do? You know, I know everything about actuarial science. I researched that. I know the exams, the career path and everything, but I know nothing about risk management and insurance. And it really was hard to find resources, you know, to find something that was just like succinct and coherent and something that, you know, sort of explained it to me. So hopefully I could share some of that knowledge with you here today that might be in that same situation. If you're in college and you're thinking about what are my next step, you know, what am I going to do with my career? Hopefully this presentation will help. And again, please feel free to ask questions at any time. So today we are going to talk about the RMI industry. We are going to talk about the various career paths, and then we're going to talk about what you can do personally to build your brand. Yes, in the middle of the pandemic, that means virtually. You know, you have to find these opportunities virtually to build your brand. We're going to talk about how to stand out as a candidate. Again, I'd love to hear any questions that you may have. And if you hang on till the very end, we're going to play a little game and there will be prizes. So let's jump into it. RMI industry sector. So when you hear the term RMI, that is risk management, insurance, and actuarial science. I've spoken to a lot of students that are studying actuarial science that don't realize that they're part of the RMI industry. So yes, if you are studying actuarial science, you're part of this industry, risk management and insurance. There are various facets of this industry, which is fantastic news for you if you're trying to decide what it is you want to do and understanding that you have a lot of opportunities in front of you. You can be a generalist, so you can know just a little bit about a lot of subjects, or you could jump into it and become a subject matter expert if you wanted to go deeply. And I've seen people that build entire career paths just around one coverage line. Regardless of what your personality is, if you are an extrovert, if you are an introvert, there is a space for you. Regardless of what your background is, regardless of what your major is, there is a place for you within this industry. I guarantee it. We can always have one-on-one conversations if you're not quite sure about that. So listed out over here, I have just a couple general career paths that you could go down. So the first thing to understand is that there's commercial lines and then there's personal lines. So this industry is divided into lots of sections in different ways. One of the ways that it's divided is commercial lines, which means insurance for businesses, versus personal lines, which is the insurance that you and I purchase. So if you think about personal lines, it's basically everything that you see on television, you know, so Flow and, you know, Progressive, State Farm, Allstate, you know, the Gecko, Are You in Good Hands, all that stuff. Everything that you see on television, that is all personal lines. And at the end of the day, the purchaser, the person who's buying the insurance is you. That's why it's personal. If you think about personal insurance, you know, we're talking about things like car insurance. We're talking about things like renter's insurance. If you're a homeowner, it's home insurance. So that's all personal lines. And yes, you can build an entire career just around that. And then we have commercial lines. So that is lines, coverage lines for businesses. So if we think about a large company, you know, pick a company, whatever is the first one that comes to your mind, chances are they're global, an international company, which means they're going to need a lot of insurance and different types of insurance. So if I use like Coca-Cola, for example, you know, that's an easy one. That's a familiar brand. Everybody knows Coca-Cola. So that's a great example of a business that is large, global, and has a lot of exposure. So lots of opportunities for loss for this company. So they need a lot of insurance. They need different types of insurance. For example, property insurance to secure all of the locations, the physical locations that they have. So the actual office building, for example. They need workers' compensation insurance for all of their Coca-Cola employees across the world. They need product recall insurance, for example. That's an ancillary line where if something happened, if there was a contamination, for example, and they have to go across the country and pull all the Coca-Cola bottles off the shelf, there's insurance for that. You can build an entire career around just that coverage line. The next type of insurance is excess and specialty insurance. So beyond just the classic commercial lines, personal lines, there's the harder to place risks, harder to place exposures. So that's what we call the excess and surplus lines or specialty lines market, which there's a different set of brokers that you can access. There's a different set of insurance carriers you can access. We have property and casualty insurance versus life, health, and benefits. So that's another way that this industry is divided. And you've probably already heard these terms before, P&C. If not, this is a great introduction to understand what all these abbreviations mean, because this industry loves abbreviations. So P&C is property and casualty versus if you're going into life, health, benefits. There's actuarial science. If you love math, if you are good with formula, if you're good with numbers, if you enjoy studying, actuarial science might be something that you can consider. As I mentioned, it's an exam process. So yes, you could always get your degree in actuarial science or a minor or a certificate, but you have to go through the actual exams, independent exams to become an actuary. If you go into a more general risk management and insurance industry, I like to think of it as 3 different areas. So risk managers are the ones that are purchasing the insurance. There's a brokerage or an agency, which is a middleman facilitating the process. And then underwriting is typically in the carrier side. So the entity that is producing the product, which the product is an insurance policy at the end of the day, the entity that's producing it is the insurer, which is super confusing, insurer or insurance carrier or insurance company. So that's where you can typically find those roles as underwriter. So if you've heard these terms before, underwriting, underwriter, that's typically where you'll find them with an insurance company. Beyond that, there is claims. So when the loss actually happens, there's a whole career around just figuring that out, assessing the loss, actually writing the checks to make the insured whole again. There's loss prevention, which is taking a look at the loss before it actually happens. And yes, there's a whole career path just around that. And then beyond that, on the other side, with the bullet points that I have here is other. We have a whole set of other career paths within this industry. So you could go into account management, which is more general. So it's sort of like that, touching on a lot of different things, not really going in deep into a particular coverage line. Or you could specialize, coverage line specialization. So let's say, for example, you choose property insurance. You could learn all about property insurance, build an entire career around that, or workers' compensation. If you choose that particular coverage line, you can build your career around that. There are financial lines as well that you could go into, directors and officers or D&O, E&O insurance, etc. And then there's the ones that you don't really hear a lot about, like marine insurance, for example. There's people that build careers around that. Construction insurance, aviation insurance, environmental insurance. So if you have interest in any of those areas, yes, there's insurance for it. And you could always combine those passions and bring your skill set to focus on those particular coverage lines and more. There's so much more, like the product recall, for example, that I mentioned earlier. There's a whole operation side of the industry as well. So let's say you're not studying risk management and insurance, you can still get a job within this industry. So you could come in and do marketing. So all the companies that are out there, they need marketing. All of them need sales to be able to do what they do at the end of the day. Business development, billing, finance, HR, and recruiting. You could always come and do what I'm doing now, which is on the recruiting side of the industry. Legal and compliance. So you can come in with your background and your interest in legal and find a career and find job opportunities within risk management, within insurance. And then of course there's research if you like doing that, product development, and so much more. Any questions so far? Oh, okay. So let's talk about careers within risk management and insurance. So as I mentioned earlier, I like to think about it as three main buckets. So there's a chain of events that's happening within this industry. Keeping in mind again that the product at the end of the day is the insurance policy. So on one hand, you've got the buyer. So it's the typical titles that you see are risk analyst, risk manager, risk director, just depending on where they are. I've also seen risk coordinator or insurance specialist. Basically what they're doing is working for the company and looking for ways to create and implement risk management policies and procedures within the company. So at the end of the day, you are just trying to make the company in a better position by using risk management tools that you have access to. So it's things like identifying the risk. So we're going to identify it, we're going to measure it, we're going to analyze it so that we're basically quantifying what the risk is. We're putting it into words and we're assigning dollar figures to this risk. We're going to do a cost benefits analysis to see, the cost of the risk, the cost of insuring the risk, if we should take the risk on personally, etc. You can design the plan, implement the plan. Of course, they're going to be looking at bottom line, or what they call the TCOR, the total cost of risk. You're going to be looking at how that loss impacts the bottom line and how insurance can change that. So basically what you're helping the business to do is plan more strategically for the future and to make sure that that risk management is implemented throughout the organization on all levels from top to bottom. And typically those roles are salary based. So in the middle, you've got your agent or your broker. So again, they're facilitating that process of purchasing the product, the insurance policy. Agents or brokers, some people use that term interchangeably. To me, agent is more of like a smaller company. Broker just means larger when you work with a larger business. They can work on behalf of corporations or on the client side or on the risk management side, or they can work on behalf of the carrier. If you have the type of personality where you like meeting with a lot of people, where you're comfortable with presentations, whining and dining, that sort of thing, I would highly recommend looking into the brokerage space because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of putting yourself out there, meeting people. Travel sometimes is required. So if those are things that interest you, definitely look into that. And yes, there are spaces for you to use math as well if you're good with numbers. It's also a great way to touch on various coverage lines and just to get a nice overview. I started my career on the brokerage side, and I really enjoyed it. I got the opportunity to see the risk management side from this perspective, and I got to see the carrier side from that middle perspective. So definitely a career path to consider. The roles within agency or brokerage are typically salary based, but they can be commission based as well. As you go higher up the chain, right at the top, there's typically what they call a producer, which is producing the business, and they're typically commission based. So if that's something that interests you, if you like sales, there's opportunities within this career path as well. On the other side of the table, we have the underwriters, or again, working for insurance companies. So if you're good with numbers, this is definitely a great place for you as well. What you're going to be doing is reviewing the applications as they come in, or accounts is what they call them. So on the client side, every time a new client comes in, that's an account. So you're going to be reviewing the applications of the accounts. You're going to be analyzing their financials, and you're going to be basically pricing the policy. You're going to be pricing it based on the information that's in front of you. You're going to be reviewing engineering reports to help you make your decision. And all the insurers have got different software that they use for you to like plug in numbers and things like that, for you to come up with a quote at the end of the day that you'll send on to the broker, who will then present it to the client, to the risk manager. So in this role, there is an opportunity for you to travel as well. There are sales roles too. So if you're interested in sales, this could be another career path for you to think about, because at the end of the day, you have to go out there and you have to sell, right? You have to sell your company, you have to sell the insurance company, everything that they do. Same thing on the broker side, you have to put your services out there, because if they don't know about your services, what are the chances that they're going to be utilizing? So this role is typically salary based as well, and some travel may be required. This is other sets that I touched on earlier. The claims professional this section is activated when the loss actually happens, right? So let's say, again, we're using Coca-Cola as an example, property insurance, so we're insuring a building, right? And worst case scenario with the building is that a hurricane goes through downtown Atlanta and, knocks the headquarters off. At that point, they're going to send a claims professional out there. They're going to go out there, they're going to survey the damage, and they're going to be the one at the end of the day that's writing the check to make the company whole or assessing. Things that they look out for as well is foul play. They look for fraud. So if you like to be a detective on your part-time, this may be a good role for you to have that investigative hat on to see what actually happened. So if building burned down, looking for signs of arson and things like that. Risk control is another career path. So again, this is before the loss actually happens. I see a lot of people with engineering degrees that end up going into risk control. So again, if we're focusing on property, for example, they could do things like going out and checking that building, right? Checking that headquarter in downtown Atlanta to take a look at the material that it's made out of. And they would give suggestions, so they would take a look at the windows, for example, take a look at the roof and things like that. And they would write out a report. So it's pretty much like consulting, it is also called risk consulting, where at the end of the day, they're producing a report where they say, Mr. Risk Manager, you need to change this material. You need to get hurricane-proof windows, for example. You need to change the roof. You need to install sprinklers and things like that. So they're going to be giving all these suggestions. And there are different areas that are risk control or a loss prevention. This particular career path is called a lot of things. So it's risk consulting, loss control, risk control, loss prevention as well. So there's a lot of terms within this particular thing, but they're all describing the same thing. It's basically focusing on the risk before a loss actually happens and finding ways to prevent the loss or to minimize the effects. So let's say the loss happens, but if you had changed out those windows, maybe the loss won't be as bad as it would have been with the windows you had before, if that makes sense. And this role is also typically salary-based. You can find loss prevention consultants within the brokerage space or within insurance companies. So you've got opportunities there to hire. Every now and then, the client side or the risk management side might hire their own loss control person, but I've seen them more on the risk management, on the brokerage or on the underwriting side. And then there's marketing and sales and a whole host of other career paths. As I mentioned, there's a whole operations side. All of these companies within this industry, and it's estimated that there's about 6,000 of them, 6,000 companies within the RMI industry. All of them need marketing, sales, they need accountants, to balance the books, they need the finance folks, they need HR representatives, HR departments. So you could come into this industry with whatever major you have, whatever background you have, and find a place for you. Any questions so far? No? Okay. So reasons to consider a career within risk management and insurance, if you haven't already, if you're not already on that path. I fully understand some of you might be in here today and you're like curious about what risk management and insurance is. So I'm going to give you a couple reasons. And if you're already on this path, this might be good talking points for you to talk about this industry with your friends to help enlighten them, because that's exactly what happened to me. I was sitting in that math class. If the student that was sitting next to me had not told me about actuarial science, I probably would be an accountant right now, right? It's all about exposure. It boils down to exposure. So the more that you can talk about this industry with your friends, with your family, to help them understand what it is you do at the end of the day, the more that we can expose people to this industry, then the likelihood increases that they're going to join us. They're going to come in and join us. So here are a couple of reasons to consider a career within risk management and insurance. First is stability. So we found out in 2008, 2009 that this industry is recession proof. And we found out in 2020 that it is pandemic proof as well. And case in point is that there's still hiring going on. So I work for a staffing and recruiting firm. And right now there's about 100 open jobs that we're actively recruiting for. So this is just one company, that's working as a liaison, representing various companies within this industry. And we have 100 open positions right now, which means their jobs just sitting there waiting for people to come and scoop them up. So while other industries have been laying people off, unfortunately, this industry has remained stable. This industry has remained strong, and we're still hiring in the middle of a pandemic. Insurance is the backbone of the economy. It's one of those industries that touches on every other industry that's out there. So no matter what you're doing or which industry you're in, there is an insurance aspect to it, because companies cannot do what they need to do at the end of the day without insurance. So insurance and risk management will always be in there. We are embedded in this economy. Case in point, here we are in the middle of a pandemic and we still have to pay renter's insurance. We still have to pay homeowners insurance, car insurance, and that's just on the personal line. So insurance is not going anywhere. There is an imminent talent gap. You may or may not have heard about this, but baby boomers are retiring over the next couple of years, which basically means there's going to be a talent gap, because as those baby boomers retire, people need to take those jobs, right? They need to be filled. So if you are someone that's up and coming, this is great news for you to find more work opportunities within this industry. The RMI industry is very rewarding. It is performance-based, which means the better that you perform within your role, you're going to get compensated. If compensation is the number one, important thing for you, you could always consider roles that have commissions. There's a lot of roles that have uncapped commission, which means you'll be, paid a base salary and then get commission on top of that. So roles like sales, producer type of roles are often commission-based. So those opportunities are there, which literally means limitless. If you have uncapped commission, it's a limitless amount of money that you can get. You can achieve your goals. This industry is one that has work-life balance. So unlike some other industries that are very notorious, for working 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week, or notorious for being very seasonal. I think about all of my friends that are accountants, and I just know that within tax season, I don't see them, right? Like for a couple months, they're just off the books. I can't call them, can't text them. We're not going out for dinner because it's tax season. So this industry is not like that. You can find work-life balance within this industry. There are growth opportunities as well. There's a relatively low barrier to entrance, and that's because insurance is teachable. So what we're doing at the end of the day is teachable. So you can come in with your background, your degree, whatever it is you're studying, and we will teach you everything you need to know as you get there on the job, regardless of which coverage line you're choosing. It's all teachable. There's also continuing education. If you get licensed, you have to do the continuing education. But even if you're not licensed, you could always opt in to do education. There are various industry designations that you can pursue. I just listed some of the more popular ones. The ARM, which is offered by the Institute, is the Associate in Risk Management. It's 3 exams that you have to go through and pass. Once you pass that, you get your ARM designation, and it's literally letters that you can put behind your name and carry with you for the rest of your career. So if any of you are thinking about continuing education, if any of you are thinking about taking exams, I highly recommend it. Because again, these are letters that are behind your name that you'll carry with you for the rest of your career. And it also makes you more marketable when you're job hunting. CPCU is another one. It's 8 exams. And then CIC is offered by National Alliance. That one's 3 exams. So there's several options out there for independent studies. Another reason to consider this industry is that we have a sense of community. It's a relatively small industry. So that means more opportunities for you. That means leadership opportunities. That means networking opportunities, mentorship. There's more opportunities for you to have that direct mentorship with a real live person, whether it's virtual or in person. There's webinars like this one, the Spencer 2021 webinar series. There's opportunities like these where you can hop on, you can meet people from different parts of the country, and you can learn something. There's several professional associations that you can join. There's so many annual conventions. We love to meet within this industry. We love having conferences. We love having conventions. So those travel opportunities are there within this industry. Some of the events are monthly, some of the events are weekly. So there's definitely a lot to do and a great sense of community here.
Tandeka, I think, sorry to interrupt you. I think Brandon may have just raised his hand. Brandon.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yourself.
I just wanted to find out for all the students on the call, what are some different networking and mentorship opportunities that you're aware of?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind in terms of networking is a weekly session that I actually host. It's called the Q Grads Coffee Hour. It is every Wednesday from 5 to 6 Eastern, and it is virtual and free. So it's open to any current college student or recent graduate that is looking to broaden your network in this virtual world that we're living in. If you're looking to meet your peers from across the country, it's a great opportunity to do so. And I bring in different guest speakers every week. So it's a great way to mix and mingle and have that direct connection with a working professional. In terms of mentoring, three organizations come to mind actually. There's the Transitions, which launched a mentorship program earlier this year. Again, free, virtual. As a student, all you have to do is go in, fill in your information, and they'll pair you with a mentor, student or recent grad. And recent grad to me is about 2 to 3 years out, because recent is a very loose term. So to me, that's about two to 3 years from graduation. So the Transitions offers that program. There's In Touch. Their website is www.intouchwc.com. They offer mentorship opportunities as well. And there's also Rise Professionals, Rising Insurance Star Executives. So they offer mentorship programs as well. They just launched it this year. So those are just the first three that come to mind, but there's more. Great question. Any other questions so far?
There's a number in the chat, Tandeka. Let me go through a couple for you.
Yeah.
First was, and Megan touched on this briefly, we had a question. Some of these on the call is from Canada, and is wondering if they can apply and work remotely for a reinsurance company in the US, if you have any insight on that.
So the thing about Canada is, although it's just next door, it is a foreign country, unfortunately, which means you are going to need paperwork. You are going to need that work visa to be able to work here. And when it comes to work visa or sponsorship, some of you may have heard that term sponsorship. Basically, if you're an international student, once you graduate, you get some OPT time that may be 1 year to 3 years that you're eligible to work. But then at some point, you're going to need sponsorship. So it might be 1 year after you're graduating or 3 years. So it really boils down to the company at that point. For the person that's in Canada, I would say apply, throw your name in the hat and just be as transparent as possible. Once it gets to that point, if your resume is selected for first round interview, second round interview, just be transparent with them and let them know, hey, I'm based in Canada. What does that mean in terms of work visa for this role that's based in the US? I think that more research you can do about this process, the better. If there's any way for you to make the company feel more comfortable with hiring you, the better. So for example, if you can explain to that company, I'm an international student and this is what that means. I have 1 year where I can work with no problems, or 3 years that I can work with no problems for you. But after 3 years, I'm going to need you to sign a couple forms and, might need your company to hire a lawyer to sponsor me, that sort of thing. So the more that you can explain to them exactly what that sponsorship process looks like and means, the higher the chances are. Because if they don't understand, if they just see international student, they might be like, oh, can't do it. I'm afraid, I don't know what that means. They're less likely to hire you. But if you can explain to them exactly what the process is, they'll be like, oh, that's not so bad. And by that time, you would have worked for them for 3 years and they'll be like, oh, I love you. I love your work. I love your work product. I want to keep you. Yes, I'll sign whatever forms you want me to sign so that we can keep you working. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks, Tandeka. That's great. Daniel asked where we can go to learn more about industry designations, and Nicole so wonderfully put a link to the institutes in the chat. So that's great. So Daniel, if you have further questions, please, elaborate in the chat as well. Stacy asked, oh, sorry.
And there's two, so on the designations, so there's two main ones. Well, it depends, right? So on one hand, we've got risk management and insurance, and on the other hand, we have actuarial science. So if you're going down the RMI path, the institutes is definitely where you want to go. They're the actual company that offers these designations. So when you go to their website, click on designations, you'll see everything they offer and the details behind them, the process through them. Some of them are only 1 exam, some of them are 8 exams to get that designation. Another website to look at is National Alliance. So they are another entity that offers designations. So same thing, go to their website, click on designation, see what's there. If you're on the actuarial science path, that's a little bit different. So you're either going through CAS, Casualty Actuary Society, or you're going through SOA, the Society of Actuaries. I believe for the first 3, I want to say 4 exams, you don't necessarily have to choose, it qualifies for both. Although that's changing, every month, every year, that process is changing. So definitely see what it is as of June 2021. But from my understanding, the first couple of exams, you don't really have to choose. And then at some point it branches out and you will have to choose which path you're going through. Great question.
Thank you. Stacy asked if we can share the link to the Wednesday coffee hours. So Tandeka, I'm happy to send that information out to all attendees after the fact. So Stacy, we'll get that to you. Other questions? I appreciate everybody's questions. This is awesome. Ingara asked, which career path is more related to business analytics?
So with business analytics, to me, that's very general. Just the term that it has business in there kind of means it could apply anywhere, versus if it was a risk management, analyst or an underwriting analyst. With analytics in general, I don't think you could go wrong anywhere. I'm assuming your degree is something to do with data, like data science, most likely. With those types of degrees, you could do anything. You could even go into actuarial science, honestly, if you're interested in the sort of data, the projecting, predicting the future, that sort of thing. You could even go into actuarial science. But just having that strength of going through data and having that analytics, you could apply that anywhere. I think you could apply for either roles, risk management, brokerage, or underwriting. But I'm assuming you're more data driven, which means you like numbers more. So I would suggest actuarial science or underwriting.
Wonderful. Tandeka, we have a couple more questions here. So I don't know if you want to continue to field those or move forward, whatever you would like.
I'll field them. I'll kind of skip through these slides a little bit. Yes, I'll take the questions.
Sounds good. Patrick asked, what types of entrepreneurial opportunities exist in the industry? Do they lend themselves more to professionals with technical backgrounds or no? And he says, thank you for an awesome session.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. Entrepreneurial, I'm not gonna lie, it's difficult, right? If you're coming in and you're trying to start your own brokerage, or start your own insurance company, you're coming up a lot of competition, right? So this is hundreds of year old industry with companies that are hundreds of year old, so it's a little bit difficult. If you have that spirit though, if you have that entrepreneurial spirit, you could always go into one of the startup companies, right? Which some of them have been very successful, especially in the insurtech space. That's a space that's definitely up and coming, where it feels like almost every day there's new companies that are popping up in that space. So you could always look at insurtech, see what companies are in there and apply to those types of roles. It'll help you see the process of what it's like to build your own company, if that's ultimately where you want to be in a couple of years, building your own brokerage or building your own insurance company.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Madison. What sector of the industry are you seeing the most demand for hiring right now?
So right now I'm seeing it in claims. That's the area that I'm seeing a lot for. Not sure why, but for some reason claims is booming right now. I get a lot of job orders, job requests where they're looking for people with a couple of years experience, 2 to 3 years of experience in claims. Some of them are very specific where they want people with experience in auto claims or people with experience in workers' compensation claims or property claims. But right now that's where I'm seeing a boom.
Great. Circling back again to designations, specifically within RMI, are there any designations that are considered or necessarily seen more attractive or needed?
So all of them are attractive. None of them are like needed, so don't get me wrong. You don't have to get these designations to get the job. You can still get the job without having the designation. It's just if you have the designation, it makes you stand out as a candidate, right? So if I'm looking at resumes and they're all great, all wonderful students, and one of them has an ARM designation, chances are the hiring manager is going to go for the one with the ARM designation because it's showing that that student has an interest with this industry, that they've taken the time to go and do independent exams outside of school to increase their knowledge and work their way through this industry. But all of them are impressive. If you are a student that asked that question, I would go for something that is not too expensive because it can get quite costly. We're talking about a couple $100, excuse me, for each exam, plus taking the exam costs a couple $100 as well. You could always look for something that's maybe one test, to give you that designation, where the ARM is 3 tests that you can go through and get that designation versus a CPCU that's 8 exams. So you're paying 8 times, for 8 books, 8 exams. You could always look at your risk management and insurance department or actuarial science department. If you have that on campus, see if they could reimburse you or cover the costs for those books and taking the exam. And if not, a lot of companies within this industry will cover those costs. So the chances are once you get that first job out of college, that company that you're working for will cover the cost of your materials and for you to go take the exam. So that's why if you're a student, I would just start off with something simple that doesn't cost a whole lot of money.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. That was such a wonderful slew of questions. That's it for now. We covered everything, Tandeka.
Cool beans. So just a couple key takeaways from what we have discussed so far. There are various career paths within this industry, which means you have options, whether that's locally, regionally, or nationally. And I never want any of you to feel stuck. If you ever get in a point in your career where you feel stuck, you don't know, you feel like you can't get your way out of it, give me a call. You're not alone. There are several career paths. There are several opportunities. There's even the nonprofit side, or working for companies like Spencer, exactly. We've got companies like Spencer, organizations, professional associations that you could work for. So there are always things like that for you to do. RMI skills are transferable, and you can have a rewarding career within this industry. So let's switch gears a little bit and touch on building your brand. So I want you to keep in mind that you're always building your brand, including this very moment. For example, those that chose to activate their cameras so far, did you know that you're building your brand already? Because everyone within this call can see you. Those that chose not to activate your cameras, you're still building your brand. It's just less effective. So my number one tip for students that are going out there that are doing virtual networking is activate your camera as a bare minimum. Activate your camera if you can. If you get the opportunity, unmute yourself and ask a question, because that makes you stand out. I see it all the time. I walk into a virtual networking space. There might be like 100 people and only 5 people have their cameras on. So guess what? By the end of that hour, guess who's going to get all the friend requests on LinkedIn? Those 5 people that turned on the cameras, because for the past hour, we've been sitting here looking at you and we feel like we know you. When you turn on your camera, you give people the opportunity to see facial expressions there's a lot of nonverbal communication that happens. So I highly, highly recommend turning on your camera every time, just to give people that opportunity to feel like they know you, or they just got to know you over the past hour. And if you get that extra opportunity to unmute yourself, ask the questions, that definitely launches you and makes you stand out. Your brand enters the room before you do. I'm sure you guys have heard that before. It is so true. Always be courteous, respectful, punctual, diligent. Hopefully you're already doing these things. If not, this is just a friendly reminder. Another thing you'll always hear in this industry as well is don't burn bridges. Again, that's because this is such a small industry, and I see it all the time where people hop around. So they might go from the risk management side to the brokerage side to the underwriter side. And that's why you don't want to burn any bridges, because if you're working as a broker, you might have some words, with a certain person, burn that bridge, and then you want to switch over to the underwriting side. Who knows, that person might very well be your boss, in the next job that you're working in, or your coworker, or maybe they're considering hiring you, and then that person's working in the company and they're like, you know what? I don't think you should hire that person. You know what I mean? So don't burn any bridges. Always be respectful. Always be courteous. Always speak up and ask questions. As I mentioned before, Google yourself. That's a great exercise to do every now and then to see what pops up. I would utilize LinkedIn and make all other social media private. I'm not here to tell you what to do in your personal lives. Do your thing in your personal lives, but I would just set that to private in case people are looking you up, in case recruiters are looking you up, which they're not supposed to do, but it happens. But definitely utilize LinkedIn, so don't utilize LinkedIn as social media. Think about LinkedIn as an extension of your resume, right? Because you've got your resume, one piece of paper that you're limited to, right? Just one piece of paper, black and white. Here are my skills, here are my qualifications. LinkedIn is where you can add more information. You can build out the About Me section. You can list more skills and specializations that you can't fit on your resume. You can put more information on there. So definitely utilize and think of LinkedIn as an extension of your resume. Don't post anything on there that's polarizing. Polarizing meaning, anything religious, anything political. You will see those posts every now and then on LinkedIn. I would just stay away from them. Do not like, do not engage, do not comment on them, because at the end of the day, we can see everything that you do. Every like that you make, we can see it. Every comment that you make, we can see it. It's literally just going to LinkedIn, looking at the activities section. You can see everything that the person has done on LinkedIn. So again, there's lots of recruiters on there. If they happen to go to your activities page, just make sure they're only seeing the best. Make sure that you're representing yourself in the best way possible.
And a quick question for you in the chat. Why are recruiters not supposed to look you up on LinkedIn, or was that other social media that you were talking about when you said that?
So I would like to think that recruiters and hiring managers are just making decisions on the resume, right? Like that's ideal world, right? Like we're just getting resumes, black and white, one piece of paper, and that's how they're making their decisions, not based on how you look, not based on where you live or anything else, just your skills and qualifications. But that's not always happening. These days, people will go look you up on LinkedIn, or they'll go Google you to see what, if you're on Facebook and you happen to be having a party over the weekend, sometimes that is a decision factor, right? It's a factor in their decision-making process, which I don't agree with. It's not supposed to be, but it happens. So in those cases, that's why you want to utilize risk management and make sure you're only presenting the best of yourself online. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Networking, you can always bond over shared experiences. So things like travel. If you're looking for certain topics and other things to talk about, you could always look at RMI topics, so like industry trends, lines of business, current events, things like that. Just make sure you're genuine when you're networking, because it's really obvious if you walk into a room and you're just trying to network with someone because you want something from them, right? The way I think about networking is that it's a two-way street, so don't only look at what is it that this person can do for you, what is it that this person can give you. Think about ways that you can give to the other person? How can you enhance their experience? Even if, for example, if you're networking with a CEO, you might be thinking, oh, this person's a CEO, there's nothing that I can offer. That's not true. You as a student or you as a recent graduate absolutely have something to offer. You could always teach that CEO something, or tell them something that they might be not aware of yet, like a certain software program or things like that. So definitely approach networking as a two-way street. So it's just not you taking all the time, but you're looking for opportunities to give as well. And that will help it be more lasting. That will help solidify that relationship. Couple changes, things that you can do today. Number one is your resume. Again, you're limited to just that one piece of paper that's representing you, your skill set, everything that you bring to the table. So make sure your resume is on point. Make sure several people are reviewing it, not just your family and friends, but people that may be a little bit harsher, like harsher critics. You want a critic to take a look at your resume to tell you, you need to change this, you need to fix that, change this wording. It's something that you should be constantly updating. Same with your LinkedIn profile. View that as an extension of your resume, be constantly updating it. So that means things like editing the background photo, just keeping your headshot fresh, maybe once a year, take a new headshot. You don't have to pay for anything expensive. You can use the iPhone, portrait mode. That's all you need, to get a headshot on LinkedIn. But just make sure you're constantly tweaking, constantly updating. If you get a scholarship, put it on your resume. If you're on the dean's list, put it on your resume, put it on your LinkedIn. So just constantly be tweaking both of those things, because at the end of the day, those are the tools you have to represent you out there, to represent you in the public. Make sure you're building your skill set, both technical and soft skills. So if you're good on the technical side, build your soft skills, take a master class or Toastmasters or something, so you can work on public speaking skills, communication. If you're good on the soft skills side, see what you can build on the technical side. Is there a program that's relatively inexpensive that you can take to help build that side? And network. As I mentioned, there are several opportunities for you to jump into virtual networking, to walk into those spaces virtually, to connect with your peers from across the country, to connect with working professionals from across the country. If you're wondering why networking is so important, jobs. It is jobs. It is how people get work. So think about it this way. Not every company that's out there is posting every single job opportunity that they have. Sometimes companies have a job opportunity and it's already filled internally with networking. Like they will never post that job on their website because it's already filled by the time that job is created. And that's all through networking. So what you want to do is jump into that. You want to jump into that networking. You want to build your connections, literally increasing the number of people that you have on LinkedIn, talking with people, networking, finding ways to enhance their lives, their experiences, and see where that takes you. So if we do have like a couple minutes, do we have time for like a game at the end? What do you think, Rachel?
I'm happy to dive in. And, folks, if you have to jump off now, that's totally fine. But if you're down to stay for a couple of extra minutes, I'm happy to keep going. Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'll post this in the chat right now. Here is the link.
Perfect. Yes. So definitely go to that link. I'll give everyone a couple minutes to get there. I have posted my contact details too, so I'll give you a second to take a screenshot. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. That my cell phone number is there. Feel free to call me, text me anytime. I'd be happy to take a look at your resume. I'd be happy to take a look at your LinkedIn profile. We can always talk one-on-one about the various career paths within this industry. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna switch screens over here. Any other questions before we jump into the game?
I don't see any at the moment. And for those, I would like to just very briefly mention for those who are having to hop off at the hour mark, we'd love to see you again next week, next Thursday, same time, same place. We'll be having a session on reputational risk management presented by Dave Poston and Megan Paquin at Poston Communications. So really excited for that. And again, I just want to thank those who might have to hop off for this amazing engagement today. So many great questions. Thank you for bringing your energy to the call. And yes, Stacy, I will send the Wednesday coffee hour info. So just we're still on together right now, but just wanted to share that for those who need to hop off. Tandeka, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully everybody's made it. Does anyone need a couple more minutes before we get started? Okay, so I am going to jump into it. Hopefully you've utilized poll everywhere. If not, it's literally just going to be a poll that you're going to complete. So first question, what falls under the RMI umbrella? Is it risk management? Is it insurance? Is it actuarial science? Or is it all of the above? And by the way, there's going to be a leaderboard after all of the questions. So it's going to show us who is leading, and there will be prizes for the winner. Okay, so 77% of you got it right. It is all of the above. So the RMI industry is risk management, insurance, and actuarial science. And Abigail is leading the way. Congratulations. Next question. So I actually got this one from the ARM exams, and it is the fundamental purpose of a risk management framework is to maximize profits, define and eliminate potential losses, reduce the cost of risk, or integrate RMI throughout the organization. There is a timer too, by the way, on the side. So you have like 15 seconds to answer. And most of you got it right. It is to integrate RMI throughout the organization. And Abigail is still, Brandon is now leading the way. Next question, who creates or sells the product, which is the insurance policy, and generates revenue for the insurance company by analyzing financial data? Is it the risk manager? Is it the broker? Is it the underwriter? Or is it the claims professional? And the answer is the underwriter. 42% got that correct. And leading the way is Brandon. So it is checking speed, and it is checking if you have the correct answer. So that's how it's calculating the leaderboard. Next question. Who buys insurance and creates risk management procedures for their company? Is it the risk manager? Is it the broker? Is it the underwriter? Or is it the claims professional? And the answer is the risk manager. 77% got it right. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. Brandon's still leading the way, and then we have Madison and Nicole. Next question, who facilitates the process between the insurance buyer and the insurance carrier or the seller? Is it the risk manager? Is it the agent or broker? Is it the underwriter? Or is it the claims professional? And the answer is agent or broker. 92% got it right. Leading the charge is Brandon. Congratulations. Next question, who reviews the claims submitted by businesses and or individuals? Is it the risk manager? Is it the agent or broker? Is it the underwriter? Or is it the claims professional? That one got answered pretty fast. I think everybody got this right. 92% got it right. It's the claims professional. Brandon's still leading the way, and then we have Madison and Nicole. Next question. What can you do to elevate your virtual brand? Is it resume and LinkedIn profile reviews and updates, increase your online presence, participate in more virtual networking opportunities, or all of the above? And the answer is all of the above. All of these things can help elevate your virtual brand. And we still have Brandon leading, but Nicole is now second. Madison is third. Next question. When are the weekly QGrads coffee hours? Is it Mondays at 5, Tuesdays at 5, Wednesdays at 5, Thursdays at 5, or Fridays at 5? Notice I didn't put Saturday or Sunday in there. And the correct answer is Wednesdays at 5. So hopefully I'll see 85% of you at those sessions. Brandon still leading the way. There was some activity at the bottom, but we have Nicole second, Madison third. Next question, what does Questpro do? Are we pros at questing, hiring, recruiting and staffing? Or my favorite answer, I have no idea. And the answer is recruiting and staffing. Oh, I love it. Someone clicked on I have no idea. I would have selected that one too. So Brandon's still leading the way. Emily Kudur is getting closer at 4th place. Which population groups does Questpro focus on? Is it students and grads? Is it working professionals? Is it executives and retirees? Or all of the above? And the question is Questpro. What does Questpro do? And only 46% got it right. So Questpro, as the parent company, they do all of the above. So we help students, grads, working professionals, executives, and retirees find job opportunities within this industry. So we've got Brandon, Nicole, and Emily at 3rd place. Welcome, welcome. Next question, which population group does QGrads focus on? Is it students? Is it grads? Is it students and grads? Is it executives and retirees? And the answer is students and grads. 92% got that right. Brandon leading the charge, and then Nicole and Emily. Bonus question, fun fact. Where is Questpro headquartered? This is really just to see if anybody Googled it, if anyone took the time to Google Questpro before walking into the session today. So is it New York, Atlanta, Dallas, or Miami, Florida? And the answer is Dallas, Texas. 33% got it right. So good job for those that got it right. And that's it. So I'm going to write down these names: Brandon, Nicole Perez, Emily Kuder. If the top 3 would just send me a note, connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected, or send me an email. Just give me your address and I'm going to mail a little something for you. So thank you all. Thank you all for playing.
Thank you so much. That was a great conclusion. And Tandeka, this has just been such a great kickoff to this series. I feel like this is setting the stage for all of these very sort of more specific topics that are to come. So thank you so much for laying that groundwork for us. And thank you to all of the, how many left? 18 remaining participants on the call. Thanks for being here and sticking with us for these 8 extra minutes. This has been a pleasure. Tandeka, thank you so much again for sharing your time with us and expertise.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Nice to see you all.
So nice to see you all. Hope to see you next week and in weeks going forward. And please feel free, if you have other questions, you have my email, you have Tandeka's contact. Please reach out, connect with us on LinkedIn, all that jazz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tandeka. Thank you, Rachel.
Bye.
Have a great day.
one.
Have a great one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.